All right.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
Market Mondays.
Man, we here. We are here.
Happy holidays, fellas. How y'all doing?
Everything's good, man. How you feeling, man?
I'm great, man. Feeling not as much coughing. Shout out to Houston Nets.
I want to thank you and your Hoosiers for visiting South Bend.
It was a disastrous fucking day. I know the coach has got an extension. You gotta go make an addendum.
Nah, that's a great year.
Blown out.
Great year. Coach of the year, AP Coach of the year, Big Ten Coach of the year. Yeah,
got smacked in the playoffs. Xander came in the room like, y'all not winning today, right? I said, damn. Okay, he was right. He was right. But shout out to my Hoosiers. I love y'all. Proud of y'all.
Shout out to the Hoosiers.
And so we move.
Real boy story. The Hoosiers are Hoosier.
We move on. We move on to.
Wait, what?
You never heard that? You never heard that?
That's not who said that.
Cameron. He said, "I'm the real boy stories. The Losers of Hoosier." Because the dudes that the losers in the movie Hoosiers was like the cool kids.
Yeah.
So he was like, "I'm the losers of Hoosiers."
Yeah. Cam used to move around in Indianapolis too, but y'all said y'all want to about Cam, but them Ohio, Illinois, Indiana lines, true.
Shout out to Jimmy, man. He got one with that Harlem joint. I like that.
Back in Harlem.
That's Capo. Yeah.
Harlem. Shout out to Jimmy, man.
We used to cop.
Capo gonna keep it here, yo.
That's a fact. Nobody loves Harlem more than Jim Jones.
Facts.
That is a
true
fact.
Indeed.
Okay. This is the last show of the year, Market Mondays.
Yeah.
We got a lot to talk about. Special guests coming on later. Yes. So I don't want to waste too much time. We can get right into it.
I want to make sure they see what that number is. Y'all see that number?
It's Reggie Bush. What was that?
I don't do that, man. That's the rookie of the year. All you Eagles fans.
Trophy back. No, your team cooking though.
They look decent. 10 wins, man. We gotta celebrate that.
and of course, do remember.
Oh yeah,
you deserve to be rich.
That's of course.
The hard copy is in.
Hey, the A side and B side concept.
Thank you.
Fire.
Yeah, man. It's all hip hop, man.
Yeah, that's the. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah, that's the.
Not there.
The A side, B side, just like an album would be. You deserve to be rich.
That was tough.
A black and gold. We got some people. They gave us some praise on the back of the book.
Yep.
Charlemagne.
Yep.
Robert F. Smith.
Shout out to him.
Steve Harvey.
Shout out to him.
A few of our friends. It's a lot. It's a lot. So, man, it's a lot that goes into writing a book.
Tell me about it.
Not as easy as it looks. Not as easy as it looks. 300 pages. So that'll be out in 2 weeks. Get your pre-order.
Yeah.
And UK, it's available in the UK too. Shout out we got a UK edition.
That is a fact.
The UK edition. So shout out to everybody in London and shout out to everybody in Manchester. UK family, we love y'all. Hackney, all of that, man. Y'all know how we.
Brixton, what up?
And y'all know I gotta get back to London, man. Damn, I miss London.
Summertime.
That's right. London, it's overdue.
Yeah.
Overdue. But yeah, shout out to everybody that already pre-ordered the book. Pre-order the book, comes out in 2 weeks. You deserve to be rich. Book.com.
Yeah.
Get your pre-order.
Tour on the way.
Building up the momentum. Oh yeah, get your tickets to the tour.
Yeah,
we are going on a tour, 5-city tour in 5 days, January 13th that week. New York City, Brooklyn. We're going to DC, we're going to Atlanta, we're going to Houston, Texas, and we're going to New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
So get your tickets limited. It costs $35 to get in, and that ticket price gives you a book. So man, we're gonna bring surprise guests every city that we go to. You know how we do.
Yeah.
A time will be had.
Yeah.
You
deserve to be there. So make sure you're there.
We might bring some people.
Friends of the show.
Friends of the yeah.
You never know.
Fittingly enough.
Never know.
You think Drake will pull some? You never know. All right, and then forget Blackout is the last Blackout I think of the year.
Yep.
Wednesday, Christmas Day.
What a time.
We will be dropping Blackout. The trap's still open on Christmas Day.
Big facts.
So
and if you and your girl not getting along, don't tune into this one because I'm gonna go crazy.
Don't you worry. It'll be, if you a football snob, it'll be past the Beyonce moment.
10
so
o'clock.
don't even worry about it.
Yep. 10 o'clock, the nightcap nightcap edition. Get your beverage of choice.
Yep. Get your Hennessy, your eggnog, your popcorn ready. Get your little breakup speech ready. Ooh.
It's gonna give you some courage because we got some things to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to be
political. No, nuclear.
Political,
sorry.
There's been some updates.
I tried to be political last week.
Based on last week's episode, there have been new revelations and updates.
We gotta get to the real this time. This time
all the
around,
way
we gotta get to the real.
Prayers for everybody.
Salute. And then Thursday we're gonna be dropping a Toby Wigway conversation that we had at Art Basel. Shout out to Toby.
That's my guy.
Super dope individual,
incredible human being,
and just a funny guy.
Incredible human being.
Funny guy.
They're hilarious.
Yeah. Okay, Ian, anything you'd like to say?
Yes, you want to get rich from the market, go to ianinvest.com. Stock club prices are in Kajabi. I think I did 60 prices this month. 60 stocks. So 180 different prices of where to get in. If you want to know where to get in, where to get out, what stocks to stay away from, when to take profit, the best analysis in the world, go to ianinvest.com, join Red Panda. No stock club call this week. Holidays, we will be back next week. I will be updating Telegram every day. If I've made you money, please put yes in chat. And if y'all up 40, 80, 100%, 200%, let me see the percentages in chat. I love y'all.
We love you too, man. Shout out to everybody in Red Panda. Shout out to all our earners in EYLU. Shout out to everybody that made our call last week. Incredible one. Hey, Ian, I seen it in the notes, man. You got one of the ones. So we're gonna go back and forth about one of these companies that not many people have been talking about, but we definitely have. So let's start by doing a disclaimer. Y'all know how this works. Do your own research. Our content is intended to be used and must be used for informational purposes only. It is very important to do your own analysis before making any investment based on your own personal circumstances. You should take independent financial advice from a professional in connection with, or independently research and verify any information that you hear on our show and wish to rely upon, whether for the purpose of making an investment decision or otherwise. Y'all know how this works. Do the research, share the research, give credit where you found it, and spread love. Let's make some money. Let's do this. Do this.
Yeah, shout out to the UI University that investor call you had. That was dope. I was on for like 2.5 hours. There's a lot of information in there.
Yeah, it was cool. I was cooking.
Talked about Bitcoin, a few other stuff.
Some stuff that I've never heard before either. It was really, really interesting.
Yeah. With that being said, the Dow Jones last week kind of recovered a little bit, but last week it fell. It was a down week for stocks last week. So is this a early warning sign of what could potentially happen in 2025 with the market?
Nope. I'm gonna make this very simple, very short. The Christmas trade is over. People have taken profits. People have been up all year. Some tax loss harvesting, but also too, with the FOMC announcement that had an effect. Mm-hmm. Also, futures expirations happen that Friday as well. So mark off every month when expiration begins to happen. But for those of you who are like, hey, the market's crumbling, the market's been doing great all year. One of the best years that I can remember as an investor. So I think this is a sign of the opposite of what's going to happen in 2025. But the Christmas rally trade, as we've known it, maybe how it was 10 years ago, traditionally is over. And not as many people are into the market. And lastly, there's no asymmetric risk to the upside, a great place to buy that's going to give me an amazing return in 12 or 13 months. So that's why the market slid a little bit. So, but also too, a homework assignment that I put on IG, write down what the point totals are every day. Mm-hmm. And if you were trading 2019, 2018 off that FOMC announcement, it was very similar to what happened this past Friday. So if you know what the point totals are, positive and negative, for each day, you can go through your calendar like your own farmer's almanac for the market and have an expectation for what the market should do.
Yeah, this is easy. No, like you said, when Powell spoke, we saw a pullback, and we kind of alluded to it last week when we were talking about rate cuts, how they've kind of been quiet about how many they were going to be in 2025. There's now rumors that there's only going to be 2, which is a decrease from what we had in 2024. Yeah. Slight pullback. But it always, I mean, and I'm glad that Chris, shout out to Chris Johnson in that episode. If y'all didn't check it out, he said, look, man, people are going to take profit. In fact, if things don't sell off, there won't be new buyers to come in to add liquidity to a position. And so you kind of saw that when Powell spoke. But also, right, we talked about quadruple witching. We talked about when it happens. Quadruple witching happened on Friday. And so when we're talking about options contracts, when we talk about futures contracts, they expire on the third Thursday of the last month of the quarter, right? So there's 4 quarters each year. So we have March, you got June, you got September, and you got December. The third Friday of those months, there's quadruple witching where most contracts expire. And so you take that with the amount of increase that the NASDAQ has had, I think up 30% this year or 32%.
Amazing.
Which is ridiculous because it was 32% last year, which is like, you don't really see that. The S&P up 26%, which is absolutely incredible. The Dow itself is up 25%. These are ridiculously impressive years, right? To have them back to back is incredible. To have them as a singular event would be incredible. To have them back to back is just absolutely incredible. So, I mean, you're going to see sell-off leading into 2025, but does that mean, is it an indication of what 2025 is going to look like? No, I think we still see growth. I don't know if it's in the 20s. I don't know if it's in 20s, but I think we could be okay with anywhere between 11 to 15% growth in all the major indices. I'll be interested to see that, at least for the first half of the year. We'll see what happens in the second half. Yeah. For the first half of the year, for sure. Yeah, so I'm not too worried about 2025.
Yeah, don't be worried about. Hold for a long period of time, and I know it's not the answer everyone wants, but if you hold for a long period of time, these worries go away. Think about it. When we first started the show, the expectation for the indexes were 7 to 12%.
Right
now, you could double your money in 4 years just by holding 2 Tech 2 index on stress. Hold for the long term, please.
Yeah. I think it's also
or be broke.
It's also important.
That's the other option
to think about cycles. So shout out to Josh Brown when he came on a long time ago. We talked about this with a few other people as far as the political cycle.
Yeah,
traditionally what it has done for the market. So traditionally, usually in political cycles, the first year of a presidency is relatively weak. The second year is the most volatile to the downside. The third year is the strongest. And the fourth year is strong as well. It's good, but not as strong as the third year. And that's kind of exactly what's happened with Joe Biden. Remember when we had that bear market, that was in year 2 of his presidency. And then year 3 of his presidency is when stocks went crazy. And then year 4 of his presidency this year, when stocks, they did good as well. So if that's an indicator, then stocks would be, it'll be a weaker year for stocks. But of course, it's an unprecedented situation with Donald Trump coming in and so many new changes that's going to happen on a political landscape that could potentially, not carry suit. But traditionally, that has happened. That's what usually happens with the situation. Is that the first year of a president's term is a weaker year for the stock market. That's just the historical, if that means anything to you. And that's interesting because we talked about in the class, we talked about Bitcoin and their 4-year cycles. And shout out to Austin when he had mentioned the 4-year cycles of Bitcoin. And in that situation, this year would actually be projected to be the best year for Bitcoin in its 4-year cycle, because usually Bitcoin the last year of the run is the strongest run. That's what has happened historically, and this would be that last year of the 4-year cycle, and then 2026 would be the worst year. That's how it kind of trades off historically.
Hands out, yeah.
So if that's of any indicator, then 2025 will be a great year for Bitcoin. If history repeats itself. Once again, it might not repeat itself. Who knows? But historically speaking, 2025 historically would be a great year for Bitcoin if it follows that same pattern that it has followed for the last 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's why it's important that we drew that parallel between Bitcoin and some of these stocks that are on the trading in Nasdaq, because the same energy that it takes to mine is the same energy that it takes to create some of these semiconductors. They all house inside of data centers, and so that infrastructure around who's creating it, who's having the power that runs to it, who has the connectivity that's going to it. All those things are going to matter. So you can see like even a company like MicroStrategy, right? If Bitcoin is going to perform well, then this is another company that we presumably would perform well as well.
MicroStrategy bought 500 million of Bitcoin, which is the 7th week in a row where it's bought Bitcoin, but it's noticeably less than what they had been buying and what they were projected to buy. I think they were projected to buy 1.5 billion or even 2 billion. So they did continue their streak in buying Bitcoin. But they did purchase lower, and think their average buy-in for the last couple of weeks has been $106,000. So they bought at high prices. Yeah. But they have continued to keep buying. So they bought $500 million of Bitcoin. Yeah. But that is less than what they have been buying. Yeah,
which is interesting. If you watched their chart last week, you saw that there was a pullback. Well, they sold shares to buy more Bitcoin, and so that parallel, I mean, it's interesting. They now have passed BlackRock in ownership of Bitcoin, right? With the latest purchase, which is like, okay,
it's impressive.
We're going for it. We're going for it. I think they now are at almost 500,000 Bitcoin, and BlackRock's right around 472,000 or something like that. Yo, he's going for it, man. He's going for
Larry, it. You got to hit that button like more than once. You got to hit accept so the other orders go through. So.
He can do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that. But next year, Revelation coming. But go ahead.
More money to be made.
Revelation on what? For BlackRock?
Rashad.
Who Satoshi is?
Yep. Shout to Langley.
A monument. He gonna get a monument somewhere.
Appreciate y'all. And y'all quit talking about my shout outs. I'm gonna shout out who I want to shout out to do what I want to do. When is MicroStrategy earning call again?
I'll get to you in 2 seconds.
I want to see that profit. You gotta look it up just to go see what the profit margin is. But no, I will give them credit for not buying as much for at such a high of a price. If it gets back into the 90s, I think they definitely should buy more.
Well, it's 90s now.
Yeah.
Which is helpful because so I think it's 92, something like that, 93, 90, 92-ish, 93-ish.
Yeah.
So, I think
90,
the low 90s, I think, would be an attractive price. If it gets to the 80s, you got it.
Yeah, a definite buy at that point.
You got to like it in the 80s.
We all circled 77. We heard a couple of people. We watched charts as well, but when we talked to Mike Novogratz, he was saying that 77 number. And I went back and looked at the charts. The same way that you read a stock chart, the same way you can look at Bitcoin, and you can start looking at what a pullback is going to be. You can start to see where support is at, where resistance is at. That 77 to 79 number.
No, what he said was that he said if it gets to 77, that's something went wrong. He didn't think that
No, he said it would pull back.
No, he said he didn't think that it was going to get as low as he didn't think it was going to get to where it was pre-election, which is 77. He didn't think it was going to get there. Because he said if it gets there, something went wrong. He's like, I don't think it gets back to 77. That's what he said. He's like, he didn't think it was going to get back to 77.
Okay.
I
see it there.
I mean, but that would be a hell of a buying price, though.
Right, and I see it there.
Yeah.
Right. If you look at his lines of retracement, like it's there. You can see like there was support there.
What will cause it to get that low?
That was his thing. He was like, something had to go wrong.
Yeah. We don't know what causes it to go high. It's just one of these things. What
causes it to go high is that Trump's appointing. He's talking about a Federal Reserve.
Yeah, people front ran it.
Yeah, the most pro crypto. BlackRock buying a ton of it. UAE buying 50 billion. Like that's what's causing it to go higher.
But those things are kind of baked into it, right? You can watch that climb when they already started predicting this in September when we saw it started to appreciate, right? With just the thought that he was going to win. Then you might name a czar.
Yeah, but once he actually won,
And once he actually won, it was like, all right, now let's take off. And then it was like, all right, well, what's moving it now? Like, what is the catalyst now? That's it. That's what I'm saying. It's just hypothetically, like, all right.
But I don't think it's hypothetically because, like I said, you still see MicroStrategy buying $2 billion, $1 billion worth of Bitcoin every single week. That's real. That's happening in real time.
But they've consistently done that.
They said UAE, but I'm saying they're upping their ante. That UAE, they said 50 billion. That's a rumor. I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah,
but they said that they just did that, right? So now you're gonna start to see nations are catching FOMO, right? And when you start,
my bad. Go ahead.
So no, that's things that's really happening in real time. And then, like I said, on the political rhetoric, when Trump is saying that, talking about a Bitcoin reserve for the U.S., that's a historic moment. And when he's appointing every single person in his cabinet is pro crypto, and his son is giving speeches about cryptocurrency to foreign entities. These are real, like that's real stuff that's really happening that could actually
on the institutional side.
Yeah.
What's the measure? How do we now gauge where it's supposed to go from that, right? Because we knew that was the stance going into it. He's named people already. Yes, we're going to be pro crypto. We've already established that. Yes, there will be more countries, but it hasn't happened.
I think what Ian is asking, like, for it to go down drastically,
what would happen?
What would happen? It would have to be a government.
And I think it's a great question for everyone watching.
What's the catalyst that goes for the downtrend?
Go research. Also, too, if every nation is starting to be pro crypto, that is a hedge for what is to happen over the next 4 years.
Inflation and the devaluing of dollars across the world.
That's all one TikTok do, right? There you have it. Two big reasons.
I understand now.
Yeah.
But okay, here could be this could be a catalyst for why Bitcoin's price could go down, especially short term. If Elon gets in the first 60 days and really shakes up things drastically and really looks like this deficit is coming down and he's cutting billions of dollars from the government board, that's going to be good for the country, but that could potentially be a signal that Bitcoin's price could go down, right? Because even when Mike was talking about it, it was like that's the debt is actually beneficial for Bitcoin. So if Elon could really start to, if it looks like, because you're not going to cut the debt in 60 days, but if it looks like this is something that could really happen, like this debt could really start to reverse course and go down. And it's something that, other countries start to follow, because there are countries that have taken austerity measures. Argentina is taking heavy austerity measures. So now if that becomes a new trend across the world where everybody's taking austerity measures and they're cutting social security benefits, they're cutting stuff like, even what Macron tried to do in France. If that becomes a global trend, then that theoretically could be harmful for the price of Bitcoin, and that could drive Bitcoin price down. Because now it's not the same. It's not the same hedge that it once was, because the prices are not eroding at the fastest level. Inflation is not going up at that high of a level, so that's going to be harmful for the price of Bitcoin going up. Yeah,
and one factor that we have to consider for what would drive it higher, hedge funds can no longer give. I was talking to Aisha about this the other day. If you're a fund manager, you can't give a 7 to 12% return anymore. You're going to lose all your fucking clients. Like, I never thought I would see the day. I have people in Red Panda asking me, like, when is the S&P going to give me 40% return? I'm like, bro, it's giving you 25 and 10 on the Orlando Magic. Like, we got to have some range of expectation. And I know the shows had a big impact on that. But, like, the indexes are giving blockbuster numbers. But if Bitcoin is doing 115%, and now your clients want 50% growth year over year,
it's tough.
It's over with for that.
But it's also ruined realistic expectations, even for outpacing assets like Bitcoin. So, like, for instance, we talked about Bitcoin, and then there's some people that's like, well, why are you talking about Bitcoin now? It's too late. And it's like, okay, $100,000, right? So let's say hypothetically you invested at $100,000. It's a nice round, even number. And if Bitcoin is going to go up, it's just a matter of how long it takes to go up, right? Yes. So let's say it goes up let's say it goes up to 125,000 next year, right? Well, that's 25% that you earned on your money in 1 year. So, yeah, like you said,
and people are laughing at 25% return.
Yeah, the perception's just been skewed. Like you tell somebody, I mean, you come from that background, right? You're telling somebody they can get 25% 10 years ago.
You were a rock star.
You're beyond a rock. You're a superstar. Yeah. Like you're out of here. You're a megastar. And that's now if somebody gets, how do you even explain that? Right? That would be a question. Like if you had a client, right, and they're like, hey, I want my portfolio to have Bitcoin. It's averaging 29% a year. Why are we not in it? What do you say as to why you're not in it? Have some type of allocation in it?
No, you have to. What I'm saying is that people are looking at Bitcoin like it's too late.
No, it's
because
not.
They look at it like, okay, it went up 3,000%, but okay, if it goes to 150, what I'm trying to let people know is that if it goes to 150, you made 50% on your money.
And that's great.
If it goes to 125, you made 25% of your money,
and that's great too.
That's not a normal compound over the course of 1 year historically for investments. So it's important for people to kind of just keep that in perspective because everybody's looking at it like Ian said, like if you're not doubling your money in 1 year, then what are you doing? But that's it's not how things work all the time.
No.
Hold for the long term. Every asset class you believe in.
7%. That used to be the expectation. Yeah, 7 to 12.
But it is but they do have to change the rules on this because because what you have is technology that has outpaced the regular, and you have the market has changed because a lot of companies aren't doing anything, and then you got a few companies that's doing a lot, and they're carrying the whole entire market. So now it's like, okay, well, I'm just going to invest in those few companies, and if you're investing in those few companies, and you're going to earn more than 7%, like for the last 10 years. So now that expectation of just earning 7% is kind of an outdated thing until we have a bear market and you lose 50%. But until then, it is an outdated thing because they're looking at it like, okay, if you just invest in the top companies and Microsoft, Apple, and Tesla, and Nvidia, and those are going to earn more than 7%. So they're not going to be happy with just even the S&P that earned 7%. The S&P is up 20-something%.
20-something%. Yeah.
That's what I said. 2022, you were down 25% of the S&P, 32% of the Nasdaq. Right? Like if you started there, okay, then there's going to be a different perspective, right? But if you started in 2020, you've seen massive growth, and then we had a pullback, and then we're seeing massive growth in back-to-back years. This is abnormal, or maybe it can become a new type of norm, just not to this level of 20+% from all the major indices.
We'll see. Okay, so what about all the CEOs leaving? This is a trend that started back in 2010, and we reported it on our page today that it's been a record year for CEOs departing. 8.6% increase from previous years, and this includes companies like Boeing, Nike, Starbucks. Nike guy got fired, but there has been a historic amount of CEOs that have left their companies in 2024.
Yep.
What does it say about?
What you want to start with? Performance?
I mean, number one, I think we entered an era where, in the same way the hedge funds have to give high returns, CEOs have to do a better job. Like, no, I don't want to cast any aspersions against the Nike CEO, but I wouldn't have hired him to run my business, let alone Nike. So I feel like a lot of the CEOs who are currently running some of the bigger companies, and okay, if a company is performing that terribly, which is a global brand, what is a 700 or maybe 500 company in the S&P doing? How well is he performing? Most of these executives are not close enough to culture or their actual customer base to know what they need to make the adjustments on the fly. 2020 revealed that, then AI revealed that. I think we're entering a new era where it's like the way you led through executive leadership was probably great for the early 2000s, but we're in a different era. Even with Apple, even though they have had a record year, I do miss the guidance of like Johnny Ive being there and Steve Jobs being there. I think most companies are not led well. They're not using their resources properly. Many companies who started the AI wave or were on this early didn't take advantage of it, and we're getting rid of the weak CEOs and making room for new ones. But combination of performance, not giving the people the products that they want, but not listening to their customer. But this is a recession sign for me. Like when a bunch of golden parachutes come out is usually indicative of how well the economy is not doing overall.
Yeah, I think there's three key issues. I think performance is one, and so the Nike one makes sense, right? They're not performing. If you look historically, what it has done over the past 10 years to what it's been doing over the last 5, it's obvious, pretty obvious in that sense. I know Foot Locker was a part of that. There is the shareholder factor as well. So like when you think of the shareholders having a vote, them having access to the information, then they become very more opinionated, and they may want a new CEO, which kind of happened with Starbucks. If we look back to what happened with Starbucks over the past year, there's that. Then there's the piece about the power of AI. Like artificial
it destroyed a bunch of businesses.
It has destroyed businesses, which some companies haven't been able to recover from. And they think like, hey, the first thing is like, who's going to take the fall for this? There's going to be the CEO at first, right? So when you think of a company like Intel, this is the power of AI, right? But not from the standpoint of them using it, the fact that they didn't adopt it when they were supposed to, and they haven't created technology to pace to the future, right? When we're talking about what they're producing in terms of their wafers and the nanometers that they're using, completely different for what AMD and what Broadcom and what NVIDIA are using.
NVIDIA doing.
Right? They've completely lost their market share, right? In AMD, where they were from turn of the century, really, from 2000 up until like 2016, it was Intel. Like, that's it. All right. And you can watch over the past 10 years what AMD has done, just eating in that space,
even not acquiring AMD or NVIDIA. They could acquire both of those and not sweat it one bit financially.
Yeah, and you can see it. Like, it's not like this was plain sight. You can see that this competitor is here and they're doing something you're not doing it, and they're doing something that's going to be revolutionary, and you're not part of it. So that AI impact is a real thing. Yes, from a job standpoint, from the top level exec on down to who's going to be working at some of these companies. So you take those three things, and this is why CEOs are going. Like even Disney, right? Like we talk. Iger left, had a replacement. Get out of here. We need Iger back. Put this thing in order. We still haven't figured out who the next CEO is going to be. Sometimes shareholders have not sometimes, a lot of times shareholders have a lot of say in who they want to lead their company. You got the AI part, and then again, performance. If you're not performing, and we can see it, right? How do you start to explain we've had 8 negative quarters? Who's going to turn this thing around? Sometimes it's going to be a new voice.
Yeah. And for all my executives, spend enough time, boots on the ground, talking to your customers directly. And every day for all my entrepreneurs, write one idea every day that will put you out of business. My favorite exercise. It allows you to see the threats that are coming in. You do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, threats, opportunities. Write every threat to your business. But it'll allow you to stop some of the attacks that come your way. But if you're not thinking about how you can put yourself out of business, someone else will. Like, think about Polaroid. They actually had the patent for the first digital camera and didn't do anything with it. Now you made room for this company to put you out of business and every other company by not innovating. Like, I'm gonna be honest, some of these CEOs just got fucking lazy, man, and got comfortable. Intel, I love Mark Benioff, so I'll leave his name out of it, but there's this whole slew. If you go through the S&P 500, you can see that they're stuck in 2015, 2014, and they're not really innovating. So, but the ones that do, such as Jensen, they will have an amazing impact on the market and will continue to do incredibly well.
Okay. So will tech and AI being so dominant with infiltrating healthcare systems, is it even worth investing in companies like UNH with 3% profit margins?
If the profit margins are that low, I don't like it, but I don't think AI will take over Lilly. I think it may help Lilly and some of the research development. A company like Stryker. Here's a big lesson I want everyone to know as we wrap up this year. Amazing technology will only help accelerate amazing companies. It won't kill it. Even though Apple was behind the ball with AI, they're now using it to help bolster the platform. It's not going to hurt Lilly. It's not going to hurt Stryker. It may hurt Pfizer, but Pfizer made a bunch of other business decisions that led to them falling apart. A great company will never get killed by technology because they're going to find a way to adapt and use it. A horrible company will. So this is a lesson I want to stand for the test of time. Like UNH had issues before the untimely death of their CEO, profit margin being one of them. Eli Lilly doesn't have the same mistakes. Novo doesn't have some of the same mistakes as a result. So I wouldn't invest in United Healthcare as a primary healthcare company anyway, but a company like Eli Lilly, it will help tremendously.
Yeah. And it goes up to the performance. We talked about, like, obviously there was an untimely event, but like there are dissatisfied people who have that coverage, right? So what are we doing to make sure that our patients, number one, our customers, our clients are satisfied? And AI is only going to help, right? Like we talked about companies coming into the AI space. We talked about what Amazon plans to do in terms of healthcare. Apple's trying to get in that space as well. You have to use it to your advantage, or you won't. You'll be the dinosaur.
Absolutely.
You will be the dinosaur.
And going back to the brand eye test, in all your years of living, have you ever heard one person say, I just love United Healthcare? Not one. Think about that. Not one person.
Yeah,
you had other issues before AI came into the building. Like, fix the problems in your business before technology. And often people use that as a crutch. Well, the tech killed. How about you denying 90% of people claims? That was a bigger issue. It may have made you money. I was talking to Ty about this earlier. Too many people are thinking about their brand in short term and how we can do well now, opposed to a 5, 10, 15-year period. Sometimes you can think short term and that hurts you for the longevity of the business, and you'll never be able to recover.
Yeah, for sure. That's a fact. Okay. Let's talk about this. I don't know if you're ready to do this, but I know, Troy, you had your stocks for next year.
Yeah, man. Let's do that.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up.
Square.
First and foremost.
To the moon.
Won't get me a game.
To the moon. To the moon.
All right, let's do it. Y'all ready?
Yes.
All right. So last week I told you that TSM was one of mine. Obviously, TSM, we were looking at it. Had a great day today. Shout out to TSM and everybody that's in that position. I don't think that it's slowing down. It passed a key threshold. When we talked about support and resistance on the call, it was at 202. So we saw it run up to 210 today, which is a great sign leading into next year. That's on my list. It was my stock of the year last year. Somebody was in the comments like, you named it as your stock of the year again? Yeah, I did, because AI is still the story. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm asking questions. All right. I think the obvious are on here. ASML. Obviously, when we talk about everything AI and it being at the centerpiece of this revolution, I mean, they have monopoly. We always talk about having a monopoly, like with Amazon. This is a monopoly, right? This space cannot thrive without that machinery that is provided to TSM, which is going to manufacture the chips as well. Even with Amazon saying that they're going to produce their own chip, they've hired TSM as a manufacturer. So
okay.
It's still the cycle. So we
gotta go see your other stock pick of the year, Amazon. It's good.
They don't count. At this point, that's always gonna be my stock. All right. Yeah. So that one doesn't count. Broadcom is in my stocks of the year. I got a bunch. Usually it's 5, but I said, you know what? There's just so many that I'm gonna go through more. Broadcom, obviously, from connectivity standpoint, inside of data centers and what its partnership inside of working with NVIDIA is on there. Lilly. I mean, we speak about this all the time. We saw what happened last week, and if you weren't paying attention, Novo had their first trial with their weight loss specific drug, and it didn't do as well. We saw Novo pull back. That increased the stock price for Lilly. I think Lilly is the problem with that pullback that they had was that the demand was so high that they couldn't figure out how to match the demand. I think they solved that issue. They're going to outpace with more capacity, more spending inside of infrastructure to meet the demand. So Lilly's on my list as well. We got NVIDIA, of course. I think NVIDIA still has an incredible year. Blackwell, we talked about Rubin. I mean, that's an obvious one. I have AMD as well. I have AMD.
Yeah. AMD have a good year.
For a number of reasons. Obviously, we talk about being number 1 and number 2, and I still stand by it. Right? Sometimes being number 2 in a space is okay. Obviously, they're well behind NVIDIA when it comes to the GPU market. I think NVIDIA has like 87% market share. But that next tier, which is like that 15 to 17%, it's AMD. There isn't like another 3 competitor. So it is AMD. But what they have done is they kicked Intel to the curb in terms of the CPU market. And so you have number 1 now is AMD in that market. We saw some pullback with Micron last week because of the sales of computers and smartphones, which is a bigger story, right? Like when we talk about Apple, what does that look like? So those things are things we should be looking at. What computer sales are looking like, what smartphones are looking like, because all these things play a role. I think AMD is at a key threshold as more corporate accounts, the Amazons of the world, the Metas of the world, the Microsofts of the world, Apple's, the more Blackwell sells out, you're going to need a replacement.
A second tier,
you need a second tier. Now, from everything that they've said, the M1 300X, which is AMD's new GPU, they said it's super powerful and super efficient. If it performs at an even somewhere close to where Blackwell is, you're going to see an uptick in their sales. So AMD is on the list as well. Let's see, where else did we go? That was those cases. I have Micron as well. From a memory standpoint, and it's interesting. I just read CNBC's companies of 2025. They had a list of which ones had the most profitability likelihood. Micron was in there. It had a 36% increase. Also in there was Western Digital. What do those two things have in common? They talk about the memory space, right? So we always talk about data storage. These two companies focus on memory, which will be one of the stories of 2025 as well. MicroStrategy, of course, right? If we're talking about this, Bitcoin, and I'm glad we had that class when we talked about the life cycle of Bitcoin and appreciation, that 29% average, the 4th year of the cycle being the best. Well, if that stays consistent, then MicroStrategy is something that we definitely have to have on our list. And then the last 3 are all energy companies that have to deal with powering the future of the AI revolution. VRT, write these down: VRT, VST, and GEV. And GEV was a branch off from General Electric. This is more focusing on data centers. You've seen the energy flow going into data centers. We talked about Microsoft with their purchase of Constellation. We talked about Amazon. Everybody's trying to figure out how they're going to create their own energy source to now power the next revolution. So energy is one of those big stories for me, definitely in 2025. Those are my picks for the year. And Kava. Shout out to Kava.
Kava's cooking. No
the more I have conversations with people, the less they are familiar with Kava, which is very interesting to me, because if we watch their, I guess the fairest comparison would be Chipotle, right? Chipotle is fast casual Mexican grill. Kava is fast casual Mediterranean.
The
valuation,
Chipotle. No,
the store-to-store valuations is pretty interesting, which tells me that there's room for expansion. I think Chipotle has over 3,300 stores across America. Kava is trying to add 56 stores. 56. I think they have like 350 stores in existence. They're supposed to be adding 58 by the end of this year, which is this week. That expansion story is going to lead to more wealth inside of the company. Most important thing, they have zero debt. Zero debt.
My favorite number.
Growing, expanding, zero debt.
That's the blueprint.
That's the blueprint, y'all. There goes my stock for 25.
I'll have my stocks for 2025 for the top of the year. But I will say the 3 most important companies I think for this next half decade are OpenAI, Anduril, and Starlink, which are not publicly traded yet. So, but I'll give my top 3 picks for 2025 in our first show of January. But OpenAI, Anduril, and Starlink will be the most important of the remaining years of this decade for sure. And Intel, rest in peace to your bum ass chip. Told you. Shout out to all y'all who be like, yo, no. Listen, I know I make it look easy because I've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes I can be easy to criticize. You can say whatever you want about me. You can't say I don't know my shit here.
Intel.
Told you.
They got $8.6 billion from the government.
Hell of a finesse on the exit out. That's a severance package. And I know it's a couple other companies that y'all love dearly. Is IBM going to lead the quantum revolution? No. Quit asking me that fuck ass question. I don't care if we get demonetized this episode.
Can we
Not
do
gonna
the
happen.
can we do the rest of the
Watching.
can we
You couldn't go to Watts when Watson came out. Shut up, yo.
can we do the rest of the episode in that Star Wars?
We sure can. You get tired of them, yo. Yo, what you think about the potential tech? Man, bro. Okay. What Jay say? I was doing this in Pampers. Come on, man. Come on, man. You don't gotta like me. That's cool. My takes be right.
Tell it how it might be. Just tell it how it is.
Hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is. All right. Well, we'll see.
Yes, I was wrong about Square. Oh.
Square. Square it is.
And oh boy, keep making them negative review Instagrams to me so I can keep monetizing. Please. I said, oh, this worked well. Oh, okay. Take what you said and put what I projected on the back. Oh boy. Thank you.
That's a fact. And I forgot. So I was talking, this is good information for people to know too, because when I was talking about how gold last week, I was talking about gold, Bitcoin. I was saying how gold got so expensive that they stopped measuring gold like how they used to measure it. Now it's just they measure it in an ounce. And that's done to, just have a more realistic measure of it. And somebody, I think his name was Justin, shout out to him. He was in the comments. He was like, $2,000 is too much money to measure. Like, laugh out loud. And I'm like, that's crazy because you actually just proved my point. Because to 2,000, I think it's $2,060, something like that, 2,600, something around that. But that's the price of an ounce of gold. But there's 400 ounces in a bar of gold. So like a bar of gold, like a brick that you see, like when they took Idris Elba to England's vault, and they had all those bars of gold. One bar of gold, one brick of gold is $1 million. So that's like the Bitcoin situation, right? Where, and like I said, that's what Hill Harper was talking about. One day we're going to be talking about Bitcoin more in Satoshis as opposed to fractional shares, as opposed to the price of actually one coin, because it does. Bitcoin sounds crazy at 100,000, but if somebody said gold was worth $1 million, that would seem crazy.
Yeah,
2,000 doesn't seem that bad though.
Yeah,
that's more realistic. So, but the price of a gold bar is $1 million, just for educational purposes, for references. So that's just important to keep in mind when looking at large numbers. Sometimes psychologically, they'll tell you a lower number. Mm-hmm. To make it more believable, to make it more realistic, to make it feel less threatening. Yes. But that doesn't mean that it's any less cheaper or less valuable. They're just giving you a fraction of what this actually cost. Yeah. If somebody said $1 million for gold, like the average person would be like, what? $1 million?
Yeah. That psychology is why companies have stock splits.
Absolutely.
It's why Berkshire has two different shit, right? Like you're not the one is like, all right, we're never splitting that, but hey, you can invest in this.
Yeah. Hypothetically, if you had like 8,000 of those bars stored in one place, at some point you would show that you had them, right?
You talking about Fort Knox?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
The Lloyds of London.
Mike Knox. Not the G Unit. 50, Mike Knox. Lloyd Banks. What? The Lords of London. Lloyd Banks. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Not go scream from Fort Knox one time.
But like I said, the Vault of England, actually, that was documented. Because they took Idris Elba, and it's crazy because. So the real question is where they get the gold from.
Shotty,
that's part of the story, though.
I know.
Oh, yeah, go watch that. Yeah, where they get the gold, they'll tell you.
Repatriation.
Donald Trump said he wants to take back the Panama Canal. We talking about that now or on blackout?
We can talk. We can talk about it now. Go ahead.
Is this a blackout conversation? I feel like there might be a blackout conversation.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Political next sponsors.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, side note.
Robots. Yeah. Robots are very close to exploding. What companies?
Wait, we kind of
the sector. This is a
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Not like physically.
Not physically.
Elon's robots are fine.
Like blowing up.
James, I see you pro Elon. Got you.
what company should you invest in to take advantage of this robot wave?
Sometimes the best answer is the simplest. Tesla. End of discussion.
Yeah.
Everyone who keeps searching for the new Steve Jobs, new LeBron, new Michael Jordan, new Michael Jackson, new Chris Brown, you never find it. Sometimes there's a thing called patent restrictions that once a company makes something incredibly great, between patents and trademarks, you can't go make that thing the way that it looks. So, given that Vice President Musk is currently aligned with President Trump, you won't be able to make a better robot than his. It may look better, but the marketing and branding and global expansion will not be there. And when you have commercial use and military use in combination, it's a hell of an offer. Sometimes the easiest and best answer is the simplest one. I know Marvell may make a fucking robot that y'all gonna take care about, but the leader in the space is the leader, and this is not from my opinion. Just go look at market share. If you go Google robots right now and who brand is associated with that, it's Tesla. So yes, they may explode, especially when he puts them in other countries for war purposes. Shout to Andrew. Go look up the history of Lucky Palmer versus Mark Zuckerberg. I'm done talking about rap beef in 2024 and part of 2025. That's the real battle you need to go look at. But Tesla's going to be the formidable leader in that space for a long period of time. And if it coming a Cybertruck too, I know y'all gonna go out and cop them shit fast as hell.
I wrote down Tesla because I knew you would say that. But here's what I'm gonna say: NVIDIA, right? You can build a robot, but if you don't have the semis in there to control it, and you don't have the memory inside there, right, to have its own automations for it to remember and for it to now assimilate and now to talk back and function.
You want a robot that you buy to talk back to you? Well,
I mean, that's allegedly that's what they called it. What was the Tesla one called again? I mean, so you're going to need all those components inside of it. And so, again, the robots are one thing. Look at the economy that's going to be built around it and that's going to be put inside of it. Now, there's some of you that are going to be like, well, I really just believe in robotics and I believe in AI. So I would not invest in a singular company that just does specifically that, right? That would be too specific for the sector. So there are ETFs. There are some ETFs that you can put. If you are a diehard robotics person or enthusiast, AIQ is an ETF that you can look at, and it's had a pretty good year to date. BOTZ, BOTZ, is another ETF, and then IBOT. Those are three really good ETFs that you can look inside their holdings. If you are a diehard robotics fan, look inside their holdings. Look at how they've allocated to each of the positions. Make a decision.
Rocket Lab.
You could be a diehard fan of something and then your portfolio die investing in it.
That's what I said. I want to do.
That Rocket Lab's been going crazy. Elon actually spoke about them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Apple has been consistently making new highs. Why hasn't this been getting a lot of attention?
Because I don't think they've unveiled anything that's been tremendous in the iOS update. I don't want to upset them anymore this year. Has been not their best offering, but a valiant effort at best.
What do you mean?
So, but the positives are profit margins are amazing. They pretty much are the biggest mass luxury company in the world. And the retention rate inside of the ecosystem between the AirPod usage, iMessage usage, the acquisition cost for new customers come down. I think 3%, which is amazing for a company at that scale. So the profit margin is really saving them. And we have to still, I mean, even though they're not at their peak, they still are one of the top 3 brands in the world. So the Apple Intelligence is okay. It's not as good as I thought it could be, but they've done an incredible job about building a fence around some of the user base over the last 20 years as a result. I do want to see I'm not going to see Tim leave yet, but I do want to see more leadership added to help them expand in that AI effort and help them focus a little bit more. But the stock has performed incredibly well, and it goes back to the power of holding. Like next year will be 5 years. If you don't hold a stock for 5 years, don't talk to me about it. I don't care about no short-term flips. I don't care about 0-day expiration. I don't care. Hold for 5 years. If you won't hold it for 5 years, it's not a good company. And this company has done incredibly well, for sure. Up $122 the last 2 years. Out of a $3 trillion company, it's a blockbuster number. Going back to expectation, like a company printing 35% or 30% a year, amazing. What more can you ask for?
Yeah, I'm just interested in what's leading the momentum right now. There's been like mixed reviews about the sales of the iPhone. Obviously, that still represents 50% of the profits.
Yep.
There's been some saying that the 16 has outpaced. There's some that said that they're lackluster sales. I guess we won't know until they report. The Apple Intelligence thing really hasn't panned out the way I'm assuming that they anticipated. I mean, it's not really incorporated in the phone just yet. I think we still got to wait on it. It's supposed to be in the new MacBooks, but we have to wait till next year for that. So is the momentum being based on maybe expectation of what those things are going to do? Is that how you feel? Because we've seen a new record 4 times in November and December combined.
Yeah.
And now we're approaching 4 trillion. When at one point we're like, yo, Nvidia is going to be the one that gets to 4 trillion. Definitely looks like it's going to be Apple now. Like, what's leading the momentum?
Future expectation, and even though they aren't number one in brand cachet, you can't name me 6 companies better than Apple. Like if your life was on the line and everybody that you love life was on the line, and you had to park, let's say it was your last 100,000, it's very unlikely that you'll get a negative return investing in Apple. So it's coming down to who is a good investment versus who gives me more risk. And Apple is still an amazing company. It's just not once again, if we were talking about this 5 years ago, they would probably be the most favorite stock in the world right now. Nvidia just came and they outpaced those gains. Mm-hmm. But 100% return is not normal, even for Bitcoin. This run that it had this year is not normal. So I think they've got lost in the way. Like remember how Tim Duncan was like amazing and would beat the Lakers, but he was still underappreciated? It's the same way that Apple is right now. People don't talk about Tim Duncan having a historic run inside of other people's historic runs. It gets overshadowed because it's kind of boring. Same thing. Apple's a boring company, quote unquote, that's rinsed and repeated some of the product cycles over and over again, but they're incredibly reliable and the returns have been there. So I think that's why they've been overshadowed a little bit.
Yeah, maybe it's their Tim Duncan year.
Yeah.
No, sir.
Shout out to all you good dudes who are boring like they getting overlooked this Christmas holiday.
It's Christmas.
Wednesday, we'll talk. Right on Christmas.
What's 3 things that people can do to prepare for the next recession?
Now I will mark off all the companies that you think are going to have a tremendous impact post-recession. So if you believe IONQ is going to leave the quantum race, I don't think it will, but the returns have been great. I will mark off the levels that I want to buy in. Going back to zero debt, find out a way to get into zero debt in your business and personal life as quickly as possible. And then third, find ways to borrow money at a very low interest rate to be able to buy all the assets you want. If I can do anything over in 2020, like my biggest mistake of this half decade, I should have borrowed $15 million at 1% interest and bought up everything I could. Every stock, every piece of land, everybody publishing, life rights, all them little OnlyFans girls who started, I should have just bought I want one of these. I'm anti-debt, but if I can get the debt at a low enough price, if I can get it at 1% interest and I know it's going to yield me 30 or 40%, I would do that 100 times over. So find a lending vehicle that will give you money at a low interest rate. Prepare for the companies that you want to buy at a tremendous price. and then I will hoard assets for a 5 or 6 year period after I got them. But what would you do to prepare? And I know some people are gonna say it's not realistic. Pick whatever loan amount that is significant for you or viable for you.
That sounds like a great plan. I was gonna say, yeah, figure out how to hoard assets. There's nothing, and we kind of can relate to this. It was like 2008, we saw a crash. 2020, it was like, all right, we got some capital. In 2008, we were like, oh man, if we had capital. 2020, oh, we got, now what?
Yep.
I would say make sure to have reserves in the event.
Yes.
Like every time we talk about prices and people say, oh, it's too high, it's too high, it's too high. Then a recession comes and it's like, well, is this the bottom? I don't want to invest if this is not the bottom. Well, this is how this thing works, right? So having reserves is going to be important so that you can invest in companies and some of the asset classes that you wanted to invest in, whether it's Bitcoin or whether it's an ETF or whether it's a stock or an index. You got to be prepared for it. So always have reserves planned to make actionable items. Like, this is the time. I'm doing it now. I'm not waiting. Here's the moment.
So the real question is, when is it going to happen, right? So I think you said 2027. History will point to 2026. Some people say 2025.
That's tight window.
Yeah. That's the real question.
We may see industry related next year. When would they announce full recession? That, going back to the caveat of will they actually announce it, because they didn't in 2022, but probably tail end of 2026 going into 2027. I think by March of 2027 they will have like announced it. So I hope we don't. I really do. But it's looking, if you look at the debt to GDP ratio, the entitlements that are owed, no one's still talking about that issue that's going on in Chicago. There's a few, and if you look at it in the stock market, imagine if we didn't have Nvidia, Apple, and Bitcoin, and now MicroStrategy in the market, what the market would be doing. Have you heard anybody mention the Russell 2000 to you in the last 18 months?
Yeah, it gets brought up. I don't know anyone who invests in it.
Rare. So market's a little toppy, pause. So when it falls over in 26 or early 27, that's going to be the time.
Yeah. Will there ever be that time? Like when it's like, oh, we got to get these small cap companies, and like that becomes I just can't see it with the way.
I think because the emergence of crypto. Yeah, because of crypto, it took all, and this is why I go back to say everyone's your competitor. Like those outsized gains used to be reserved for the Russell 1000 or 2000 or S&P 400, or you would look to Japan or China for those kind of gains, and you will find a small cap stock that could go up 400%. Now, why have to risk it if you have Bitcoin or Ethereum? So it's a very interesting times when everyone, even amongst the hedge funds, there used to be value funds, there used to be value sectors, value ETF, value investors. Everyone wants 50% gains now, minimum for the year. Everyone's eating everyone's lunch, and it's going to cause a collapse in some areas as inflation continues to get pace higher.
Yeah. We should see a correlation chart from 2014 Bitcoin to the Russell 2000.
That'd be an interesting graph to see.
Yeah. And volume as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously we had those crypto winters. Did we see a spike in the Russell, right? Like as opposed to now when we see this bull run in Bitcoin.
Yeah.
How many people are investing in that?
Especially everyone in crypto that hold for 5 years, that matters probably more to you with the value that is printed every year. Like when you go look at those 4-year cycles or 5-year periods, even for like Ethereum or XRP or Solana or Hex, like, man, missing out on a 5-year run, you're missing out on a run that'll change your life. Change your life. And I say the same thing in media. Like, have you guys interviewed anyone that has done well and it's like after year 5, it's like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm selling every business, every asset. I'm gonna just chill on the beach. Nope. Find more assets. Great interview with Common. But I started to look at the timeline of when he went to reinvent, change sound, change performances, change acting, talking about the fitness and how he invested into his body to be able to perform. Like, Dog, everybody on earth who is great, they're looking at things in 4 and 5 year cycles, but they're holding those assets for a long period of time. That's never going to change. It's never going to change.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're going to bring up a special guest.
Yeah.
Friend of the show, our guy, Chris Gotti.
Hey.
Bring Chris up.
Yeah, thank you.
Is he the first person to do a full gauntlet?
Incredible day.
Yeah, for sure, man. That was definitely a dope thing. I got to see it on YouTube. For anybody that's not familiar, the Clash Pro League, something that we've been championing for a while. So it was an idea to actually blend streetball culture with professional basketball, and they created a professional league. And really dope idea. They had a draft, combine, whole situation, and it was a whole season, playoffs. And yesterday was a championship game. I didn't get a chance to make it. I was watching on YouTube. It was crazy. Shout out to Twins, Zion, and the whole.
Yeah, the championship remains in Harlem.
Yeah, Harlem kept it. Twin. Shout out Twin, man.
But it's a dope conversation. First and foremost, congratulations on the season. It was dope to watch. But from a business aspect, I think it's interesting because we talk about the NBA ratings is down 48% since the early 2000s, and they're struggling trying to figure things out. You started a league, right? A professional league, which essentially combines street ball, like you have street ball elements to it, but you're running it like a real league. Do you see this? Do you see this as something that over the course of time can actually, pick up steam and momentum and kind of take from some of the lackluster viewership that people have for sports these days when it comes to professional level?
Well, first, I want to start by saying I'm not really trying to compete with the NBA in the sense of, at the moment, especially, they get the best athletes. That's period. How can I compete in a basketball game and they have the superior athletes? They get the cream of the crop. But the reality of that is, if I gave 50 players, how many players? 450, right? Players. $10 million, $50 million, $100 million. How many of them is showing up to work? How many of them think they are an employee and not a boss? And that's the real problem that the NBA doesn't want to address. But that is the facts. And I want those players to make money. Absolutely. They're the reason they're generating all the revenue. But the fact of the matter is that's just human nature. You give someone that kind of capital, that kind of money, they're no longer an employee, they're a boss. So they don't want to show up to work. They may not want to feel like playing practice, and doing the things they need to do to accelerate their game. And to me, the league knows that and changed the rules, made the game a very light game. Fouls are very simplistic, very easy to flopping. They're trying to stop flopping, all the flopping that goes on. That doesn't make it good for a fan to watch. And that's the reality of why the league is probably dropping the ratings. The competitiveness is not there. That toughness that a fan wants to see is not there.
But then also another aspect of that, that somebody brought up to me yesterday, to piggyback on this before we go to another question. Another aspect of it is that kids aren't watching. The NBA is not skewing young. So even my son, they watch Overtime Elite. And there's other... Where Overtime Elite is a league that's in high school that started like a professional league in high school that started in Atlanta, and they got Jelly Fam team. They got a Jelly Fam team, right? Then they got a Rod Wave team, and they'll bring celebrities in and all of that. So it's that's more realistic for those kids to watch those players because they relate to it in real time. It's fun. They have different colorways on the jersey, stuff like that, as opposed to when we grew up, we was watching the NBA. As the high. So I say that to say your league could provide some level of that in a sense, because it's it's an alternative off-brand situation where it's not politically correct all the time, right? You're going to have people that's going to curse. You're going to have you got an announcer on the microphone at the whole entire game. So that's part of it too. The NBA has got so far removed from the ground level that the new alternatives are starting to pick up momentum.
But absolutely, that is a huge problem with the kids, the disconnect. But it is still the number one sport that is watched. and growing from a marketing from a marketing standpoint. It's the number one growing sport that's growing the most, basketball. It's the number 2 sport in the world behind soccer. And we have the kids. They're just not watching games. It's not about they don't watch maybe a highlight, but they're not watching the games. The games is really it's a combination. It's too long for these kids' attention spans today. Social media changed that forever. They don't have the attention span to sit and watch a full game. They just want the highlight of it, but they're very in tune to it. And yes, they watch the kids. And the CPL League is going to create the CYL League, which is going to be the Clash Youth League. And we're going to start doing the same thing with the youth this year, 2025 coming up, and start promoting and bringing that into fruition with the kids to get the kids involved, engaged, and we'll kind of cipher them right from there, right into this Clash Pro League to let them follow their careers, basically. Some of these kids that get to, the next levels and so on. And if they don't make it to the NBA, they're going to have a home here at the CPL.
Yeah, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. When you look at the demographics from social media, basketball by far outweighs any other sport because of that highlight factor. But social media doesn't pay the bills, right? They need people to watch the games, right? So you can get the big TV contracts from the Peacocks and the Amazons of the world. Which is why
it's funny you bring them up only because those are non-traditional networks. You didn't mention the CBSs, the ABCs, the NBCs.
NBC, yes.
You went to Peacock, and that to me is the changing of the guard, right?
That's why I wanted to go with it. That's exactly why I wanted to go with it, right? Because we grew up, we watched NBC or we watched ABC, ESPN played it. It talks about the disruption inside of the space, right? Like there's a traditional model. The CPL is not the traditional model. For those who don't even know what the CPL, give them a breakdown of what it is, how many teams. I know this is the first season just came to an end, but there's going to be more seasons. Talk about where we're going with this.
When we first started this league, it's only 8 teams. Like, we have to start somewhere. The NBA is at 32 teams, I believe. They got there. They didn't start there. They had a bunch of expansion years. They had a bunch of down years of growing. We're no different. That's all. We're building a business, an infrastructure. And the beauty of what I have is I could actually look at the NBA and I can look at what's happening overseas. And I'm a kind of a morph between the two. And I understand the challenges that they're all going through. And we could kind of fulfill some of those voids that are not available for them in those markets. And growth is everything. So we're watching our leagues grow. We have a network called Clash TV. You watch it on there. You can watch it on YouTube. But we're looking at partners like, from a distribution standpoint, like X, the Twitter. They're huge in sports, and people think they're politics. And we're in conversations as we speak to bring us on to an X, which is a non-traditional platform that could do everything that these networks are. And that's, to me, where the kids, that kind of goes right back to the kids. Kids are not watching TV. So to put it on network and they don't watch it, here's the way to get to these guys. We could go through a different channel, a different way to actually stream it to them, and they'll watch it from there. And that kind of goes hand in hand with that last question as well.
If I wanted to get drafted, well, not me, because I don't play ball like that, but if I was like a baller when I wanted to get drafted, what's the process for getting recruited so I can be in the league?
No different. We have a combine that we had over 300 plus players that came in and tried out for the first initial week. Now, mind you, no one knew what CPL is. I'm kind of crazy in the sense I just said, let's start it, thinking my word of mouth is good. And we had over 300 plus basketball players that signed up, but we only could accommodate 100 in the combine. The rest of them was on our draft board. The other 200 was on the draft board. And then we did one additional draft in the middle of the season after the third game. I allowed, because a lot of players that was overseas that now started seeing us doing it, wants to be part of it. And we had another 120 plus basketball players that signed up for that. And we picked up in our league, we added about 20 new players that actually got put into teams. which was a great, again, to me, that's proof of concept. That's proving the demand. They realize that it's a real thing. They seen the videos of it on the Clash TV, and they wanted to be part of it. A bunch of them was like, I could make the same money as if I was playing overseas, but I'll be here with my family through the holidays. It was a bunch of different reasons why they came into play. But that's how you get in. If you're a player, there's a combine, you get put on draft. And then again, just like a job, if you didn't get to the combine and the coaches didn't see you, your job should be soliciting the coaches, saying, hey, I'm really nice. I'm him. Look at my highlights, showing them, right? See, that's the difference between us and, let's say, a league like an NBA where you have an agent that does that for you. That probably doesn't do it the best for you all the time. He might send it in, but he's really not out there fighting. You can fight for yourself here and tell the coaches, here's my highlights, DM them, email them. They're all the information is listed, and all you have to do is DM or thing, and then if they see you, they could pick you up. And that's, to me, that's on every player. That's their job.
So talk about like running a league as far as a professional league. You know, it's a lot. You guys pay pretty competitive compared to like a lot of players overseas.
Yes.
So you pay the players, you pay the coaches, you have announcers, you have videographers, you got to pay the gym. Like, you know, as a startup,
it's a
like,
big overhead.
Yeah. Talk about that as far as like raising money and getting investors to believe in a situation and stuff like that.
That's everything. Just like any entrepreneur starting a new business, we have the proof of concept. We have the idea. We bring it out to different people, different investors that are interested in the space, and we get started. And that's what I did. I raised the money to get started, and then now I'm raising even more money for the next 2 years, and then I'll raise even more money after that. Raising money only ends when you're at a very high profitability from the company you're with. There's so much growth and expansion that we still could do. That's why we can't stop raising money. I mean, I have so many areas I could go into in this CPL that I have to keep raising money to build out those areas, those different verticals inside of this one umbrella called the CPL. But that's what we do. We raise money. Like minds typically start you in a race for any business. It doesn't matter.
I was watching the post-game interview from the championship, and it was interesting. The players are talking about the opportunity that this has presented. There's never been anything like it, and they were so grateful for it. One of the other things that wasn't talked about, though, was that development piece, that they're actually playing team ball, but off the court, you're preparing them for life in a professional atmosphere. You're teaching them how to interview. You're showing them what it's like to interact with fans. Talk about that development piece that most people, they kind of neglect, but it's so needed.
We have a guy named Larry Berger who's from the NBA that did all the developmental work with all the players. He works with Clash. He's part of Clash. He's part of the team. I've known him for years. I was able to bring him in and work. He does interviews with them. He teaches them how to do interviews. Again, it's preparing them for next levels. Not saying CPL isn't the next level, but we're not at the moment. We will become that. But my goal is really to help them get to another level to make money to feed their families, and that's really the goal. No matter what, if it's CPL, that's what it'll be. But if for now, if they end up getting a bigger job overseas or getting an NBA deal, that's what it's about for me. We're gonna have trainers. We're gonna have an arm that just focuses on the growth and development of players. What's interesting, the TBL came to me during playoffs. I don't know if you're familiar with the TBL. That's the basketball league. They have 47 teams in the country. They're another professional league in the United States.
Is it TMT?
No, TBL.
Dude, that's the one that runs in the summer.
The basketball league is the name of their league. And it's funny. It was coming to steal players from me to bring into their league. One of our players, Ja James, played in there, and he was one of the leaders, won the chip over there, and did really well. But that only tells me one thing, that we're way better than they are. And not trying to down Ja James, but we have players that is above Ja in abundance, like that's doing really well, that's just as good as talented as Ja. And for me, right away I went to them if they wanted to do exhibition game with CPL maybe versus TBL, and they was like Clash could stream it, and I told them right away, let's put up some money, because that's another way we can raise money if I beat them for some real money. And that's something I put on the table for them. So we'll see if they take the offer.
As a founder, of course, vision is incredibly important.
Yeah.
When it's all said and done, like, what's the ultimate vision that you hope the league achieves? And if people want to invest into the league, how do they do that?
Well, my expansion is, man, it's sky's the limit. I said I'm not competing with the NBA because we're street ball. We do things differently. We should never forget that basketball is entertainment. And we're entertaining. That's why I have an announcer like Cha-Ching on the court who's the best at it. We have a live DJ that's interacting with Cha-Ching while he's on the court calling the game. And, there's no limit to where we could take it, and it's never been explored in this capacity. So for me to tell you how far I could take it is just pure guesstimation. But I don't see a limit, really. I don't. I could do everything the NBA is doing and more. There's, UFC. What was the UFCL with Herschel Walker, Jim Man? Those guys were #1 draft picks coming out of college. They went over there to play. USFL.
Yep.
Yeah, USFL.
You got it.
They went to go play over there. It's just they didn't work out. There's no reason I can't work out, especially with the new way you could make money from different distribution outlets. There's nothing that can't happen right now. There's no more barricades for me, right? Maybe the USFL had barricades with the NFL that was put up, in fences and gates that you couldn't get over or around. But in basketball today, or in business today with live streaming, even my network Clash TV, I don't have to technically leave if I build that out.
Yeah.
And get the viewers right there. All the sponsors will come and all dollars will be owned by us. So when you say that, it's like when you see the money that's generated, mind you, they're far in it. And what did it was huge stars that was marketed outside of basketball, not just basketball. Michael Jordan's acceleration, in my opinion, aside from being the GOAT, I know you might have people that don't.
No, I agree.
No argument, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree.
But
Shotty may differ, but we agree.
It was really Gatorade and Brand Jordan that made him the GOAT. Aside from not counting his play, because people have better numbers, as we know, in different things. But what made him the GOAT was those commercials and the mindset it did to the people. That's what marketing is. And that was what happened to the NBA by the grace of God. It was first Converse with Magic and Larry Bird and Dr. J. And that's the early days of them just breaking even as a company. It was Converse, though, that did it for them. Their play is, to me, when I talk about basketball, you have to be, I can't talk about you as a player if you're not great. That is just what has to happen, right? That is a given. We're going to have great basketball players in these leagues. So the NBA had great basketball players, but the marketing took them to another level, which brought the fans and everything else that made them profitable. I'm no different with CPL. I have to do the exact same thing. I have to turn Doozy, who's my MVP, right? That's Zion Styles. His nickname is Doozy. That's who has to become a star. He's the best player in my league. He needs to be a star, and that's what I'm going to work on, getting him brand opportunities, maybe NIL situations, and just creating content for him to help him blow his own brand up.
Well, I think that, because speaking of, let's have a broader conversation before you leave about streetball culture in general, because I know you're deeply entrenched in streetball culture, as I am. And the peak for streetball was 2000s, early 2000s. That's when.
And one.
You don't agree with that?
Early 2000s, I was the one that did it.
Well, you tell. All right. You had the story with Kobe. You brought Kobe to the Rucker.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You got the sneakers.
Absolutely. I still got the sneakers, signed sneakers in a glass case. What are they worth?
You got, because when Kobe came to the Rucker, he scored 80 points?
No.
How much he scored?
It started raining.
Kevin Durant
in the third quarter.
Yeah, Kevin Durant put up 60.
66. Kevin Durant put up 66. Yeah. I brought Kevin Durant to the park.
Yeah.
So that's not the heyday of the street ball. That's later. Right? The heyday is the Kobe time. It's right there with Baron Davis, Catino Mobley,
Stephon. Right.
You cannot talk about that street ball culture without talking about a Fat Joe, right? And what he did, Terrence Carr, with the amount of he used to walk in the park with 6 pros, NBA players, for his team to play in Rucker Park.
And
that's what he did. I would bring 2. I would have 2 to 3. You know, Derek Anderson, the man.
Derek was nice, yo.
Was legend. A monster. Derek Anderson played for me again. I used to bring so many different players. Lamar Odom. I mean, the list is so long, and that's the heyday because we brought that star power and celebrity to come play and let the street baller play against them. You know, A. Butter. You know, whole lot of game. I named my MVP trophy after a whole lot of game because of his impact on street ball. So,
but it was a combination because you had Kobe, and Kobe played in low top Air Force Ones.
Yes. No. We gave him. It was high tops. It was high top
Air Force Ones.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So Kobe, you had all these players playing, but then you had street ball players who became legends, like A. Butter.
Yes.
Right, like an Ali Mo. The best street ball player of all time is Skip to Malou because he transitioned
and made it to the league and did the same thing. Shout out Rayford.
And then you got N1 Mixtape. They play a major part in it. And then they got Hot Sauce and White Chocolate. So yes. So that's the element that's missing right now. There's nobody who has that name, right?
You know. Again, those names, that's prior to social media. So they may have a name, but because of social media, it's like a needle in a haystack because John Doe that could fool you because he makes a video and it looks that and he could get views more than you can and things of that nature. You don't realize that that's what's going on. A lot of those influencers that does all of those things come to the park and get destroyed. But they have a name because they knew how to work the system. And that's part of the challenge.
Isaiah Washington, he's the last one.
He's the last one, absolutely.
He's the last one. Jelly fam, no question. That's nephew. When he come to the park, 2,000-3,000 kids is pulling up. Again, that's the fact. He's the last one of the street ballers that had that name and recognition, but he did it on social media first. See, it comes from that. It's not from actual, and I'm not taking away from his game because he created jelly, right? He lay you up, you know, and that's it. But at the end of the day, that social media aspect is what took him to the heights that made him become. Look, Nas Reed with the Timberwolves is jelly fan. He's underneath. He's underneath him. And, you know, these guys used to all be together. These guys were incredible players on the court. So can you create the next Can you create the next Skip to Malou, Ali Mo, Jelly Fam?
Of course, that's like a trick question. You know, that's Jay-Z and Dame Dash. Make another one, right? But when I say of course, the player, it starts with that player. They have to be of that talent. You cannot fake that talent. Now, that's what I said. Those influencers that have those big followings that pretty much fake that talent with inferior players they play against, and then they came to the park and play against real street ball.
Well, we got one. Moneyline Meach.
That's a name.
Moneyline Meach.
That's a name.
Yeah. But what are you saying? Can we make them into the next one? It takes you guys, social media. Come on, market them.
Well, he with the right team already. He already with the right team.
You got to start with the talent, and then you can make a name. Those guys earned their names. None of those street ballers didn't earn their name. If, like I said, Black Widow was one of the early guys. You know, Alamo. That was one of the early guys that I used to go watch the games. I've been going to street ball since I was 15. I'm 57. That's 42 years in street ball culture. And I helped build the #1 park in Rucker in the world and the #1 park in the country with Dykeman, with Ken Stevens. So Greg Maris I helped, and then Ken Stevens I helped. You know, I named my trophy for the championship trophy. It's the Greg Maris trophy. You know, it's not the O'Brien. You know, does anyone know who the O'Brien is? Who O'Brien is by any chance for the NBA, the Larry O'Brien trophy? Do you know who that is?
I think he's a former commissioner.
Yes, he is. Good answer. You're a smart man. But what I'm saying is, what the former commissioner of a losing franchise. How about that? Because David Stern made it profitable.
True.
Not Larry O'Brien. But they gave him a name of a trophy. But that's what they do over there. I don't do that. I gave it to the godfather of streetball. Like, and I had a sister there to honor her and the family. That's what I wanted to do for their legacy and for Greg. And you know, it was a beautiful thing last night for the championship.
Guys, season 1 is over. I know there's people that's like, yo, I live in Philly, we can hoop. Yo, I live in Baltimore, we can hoop.
Chicago,
LA, Chicago, we can hoop. When is season 2 coming? Are we going to a different city? What does this look like going forward?
If you want the politically correct answer, you want the answer that
I want the real answer, Gotti. Come on.
So listen, the politically correct answer that's real is, again, we're a fall-winter league. So it would come back in the end of September, October, and finish out in December, just like it did again. The reality is, because I'm a very aggressive leader and I believe in what I'm doing, I'm looking to raise the money now and start up in, let's say, February, March, and finish before summer. So I would love to do 2 leagues, 2 seasons per year, fiscal year. So one in the, let's say, spring and one in the fall, winter. And that's how I want to build this out. And then when you mention other cities, I'm going to say we're pretty close to closing the deal for Baltimore. And we'll do Baltimore. If we, again, the right way I will do it is without getting, if I don't get the acceleration that I'm anticipating, I'll just do Baltimore at the same time as the New York League. And I'll do it in Saturdays and New York on Sundays. Does that make sense?
Gotcha.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So I'll be traveling from Baltimore Saturday, then back to New York Sunday, and we'll own the weekend in basketball all fall, winter.
With NIL being so big in college, have you thought about ways to integrate name, image, and likeness into your league? And if so, can we invest in it?
You're spot on. Everything is absolutely. We're building out the NIL arm right now. It's part of what I'm looking to raise more money for, because I want to bring in more talent for the NIL and the collective agreement or collective deals we could do with different brands and partnerships that we're going to partner together and lock in. And we're adding the youth league, so it makes even more sense. So I'm going to be taking kids right from high school, right through college, right to the league, the Clash Pro League. You know, but that's really what we're looking at. And when you talk money, like I said, when I mentioned Herschel Walker, I just bring him up because he was the Heisman Trophy winner and he went to a different league other than the NFL.
Eric Dickerson as well. Eric Dickerson as well.
Eric Dickerson, exactly. That's how I look at where I'm heading for now before I take over and actually become the solution. The NBA has a huge problem again, and I want those guys to make money, but guys are going to be making $1 billion in 4 years. For 4 years, guaranteed money. If you have a child, right, this is a question I'll ask you. If you have a son, how are you not telling him to pick up a basketball and make that his #1 objective, not being a doctor or a lawyer, right? It's just as hard to be a doctor or a lawyer, right? It's just, think about what I'm saying. Like, everyone says, "Oh, it's only 450 jobs." I get it, I understand,
but if you make it,
there's nowhere else that you could get that kind of revenue from anywhere except maybe in a sport. Let's say in a sport.
I mean, a lot of players making more than hedge fund managers. These new contracts.
You know, I think me and Rashad, we talked about that. I think he did with Harden, and he said that he didn't make more than the play. The players don't make more than the owners. and I believe they do. Some of them, not all of them, the higher paid players do. He doesn't realize maybe that these owners don't just generate $1 billion every year. They have an evaluation of a company that's worth X, and then they could leverage and do things to make deal flow, but they're not sitting on a cash flow every year of $100 million or something like that, which these players with their endorsements and everything is making close to that every year.
Yeah.
It's crazy. That's real money.
Before we leave, I gotta ask this question. Going back to Streetball thing.
Sure.
Okay. The landscape has changed because there's a lot of money that's involved now, right? So Queen of Harlem, she had a tournament balling up in Harlem, and she shook up the landscape last year by offering $50,000 to the winner of her tournament. And this year she upped it to $100,000.
Yes.
That changed everything.
Yes.
That changed the landscape of everything when it comes to Streetball in New York City. Talk about that.
I'm gonna first. I want to shout out Michelle, Hunk, all of those guys over there that run the Queen of Harlem, the Ball Up in Harlem tournament. That's let's. I want to just divert off of it for a second to say, like, COVID, the drug, the vaccination. We won't know what the effects of that vaccination is for years to come. That's how I look at what she just did from a street code, because we don't know. I believe Ferris, shout out Opie and Kev, you know what I'm saying, and Higgsy, because I believe a park like that's an emerging park, that's incredible vibe, environment I love so much. I believe they're going to be the ones that hurt from it the most, because I keep hearing from the players they don't want to play in all these parks if there's not a significant amount of money put on the table. And I believe that's going to hurt the culture for other parks and other places. Hopefully not, but I just feel in my gut tells me, just hearing the people constantly talk about things and what it's about, I think that's going to be a problem.
Or it could be an incentive for some of these brands to figure out their new grassroots program.
I talked about the brands.
Right. Puma, Nike, all of them. If you look at Nike's, and this goes into like a deeper conversation of the stock itself. If you look at it, the sales have been down. Number one is that kids aren't buying shoes, right? They're using, but if you get grassroots, right, and you can have the product in the parks, that changes things. And so maybe rather than saying, hey, that was 100,000, maybe this is a start of something that say the way we've been spending is not effective, or it is no longer as effective as it used to be.
They do that.
Here's a new thing.
They do that.
I'm talking about for a place like Ferris.
No, you're again. That's a very accurate assessment. The issue goes back to Nike, not the park. It goes back to Nike saying, I can spend my money more wisely. Okay, they're looking at digital ways. They're looking at things of that nature. Like, I'm inside of all of these brands, the marketing companies that represent the brands. I mean, I talk to them all the time. The problem with the parks is we're what I call hood business. Let's call it that for now. They already been raping and pillaging all hood businesses. They do it constantly. So if they put your bar here in the hood business, how hard is it to take it to the next level? They never let you do it, because they're going to tell you they got you at a below average number already for what you give them. And then they're going to tell you, if I raise it up 10% and you're still not nowhere near what it should be. That's the reality that all of these parks face. And I really felt and believe that it's Clash is the savior. And why do I say that? Because we're not hood business. We're live streaming. So now we could tell them, pay like you weigh, pay the proper amount. And then I could still go back to every park and overpay them. And it's better for each one of them at a 50% deal that I have for them.
Talk about hood business, Ian, before you talk about your hood.
No, good point.
You talk to me about that a lot. Hood business. Then there's another name that we probably can't say on this program.
Yeah, that's why I call it hood business.
The hood.
Thank you, Gotti. Appreciate you.
Talk about
that's Wednesday show. That's not Monday.
Talk about hood. Talk about break that down, hood business, because you come from the music business, which is the ultimate hood business.
Well, rap, not all music business. Rap music is hood business.
People don't understand. Talk about how
Yes.
difficult. Talk about how difficult it is to try to be a businessman in the hood business.
You know, it's extremely difficult because the powers that control those dollars in the business side of it that you're trying to get into, they look at you. Again, one of the most racist things I dealt with in music was, that's a lot of money. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? That's like, that was so offensive to me because it's not a lot for you, Mr. White Man, but it's a lot for me coming from where I came from. And I would be so offended. I'm like, that's not a lot of money. Then you take it. It would turn me so off of the deal that they would say that. And I mean, you would be surprised. They say it all the time. They look at what you're doing. That's a lot of money for you. They don't even realize how they're lowering your value when they do it. And it's disrespectful. So when I say it, it's the same in every hood business. And we have a lot of them out here. But in basketball, a company like Nike knows exactly what you're worth and does not pay you even close to it. And then when you take it, which most of the parks have to do to survive, they just take it. Fuck it. Oops, pardon me. And they take it. The reality is they'll never get to the number they want. And how enters Clash TV, a live streaming company that presents a whole different way of generating revenue and eyeballs for them. I don't talk hood business. I'm talking real business. And if they don't talk to me, I pass on the deal. See, a lot of people wouldn't pass. They'll just take the shorts. But if I want to go up, once you take that low number, you'll never get to the number you never. Want. You're stuck. And that's what every park, whether they ever had a deal or not. So Ferris they didn't get a deal with Nike yet. They're stuck based on what Kenny did, what Rucker's getting, what Gersh is getting. They're stuck because of that. So there's a value already set in the marketplace. You cannot change that value without doing something different or drastic. And that's what Clash will do. But I need them to be able to say, I'll stand with you. Yeah. If they don't stand with me and have the time, you know, that takes guts, right? That takes, balls.
Yeah,
that's what they say.
Chutzpah.
Kahunas.
Yeah.
I have big kahunas, bro. So it doesn't matter. I'm gonna stand on what's right, not what's wrong. And that's it. I stand on what's right. So I'm always on the side of right. And what's right is take care of the people that's taking care of you. And that's what the brands that are coming into hood business, which want all of that, they don't know how to get our culture. They just don't know how to do it. So they have to have someone that allows them in, and the people that's in the positions are letting them in at very low value. So they'll never.
My final question for you. My apologies. My final question for you. Yeah, two-parter. Are stars born or are they made? And then if you have to break down the elements of what a star is, what makes a person a superstar? Because you've been around a lot of them and you're one yourself.
Yeah, that's again, coming from music, I'm a star finder. That's how I looked at myself, right? I find stars. So it's both. You could manufacture a star. I've seen that happen, but they have to have there's still something that has to be in them. And then the ones that have that in them naturally are superstars. They're Kanye West. That's the difference. So, right, he's not manufactured. He's a star. If that may, again, I could say a Jay-Z, if I use music, these guys are stars. Ja Rule was a star. He was not manufactured. He had something in him. It was just different. But then you get the guys that are very good. All right, so let me ask you a question. Is Jadakiss a star? Is Fat Joe a star? This is what I'm saying. It's no disrespect to them. They work their asses off.
Yeah.
And became it, and they have that core thing in them that makes a star. Like everyone doesn't have that it. Let's call it that it factor.
It factor, yeah.
They have that it factor, but they figured it out from work, from time over time over time. It happens in sports. I could actually argue like a Kawhi Leonard. If he's not fully manufactured, you tell me who is. He's worked his way to where he's at.
Yeah.
right? That you could tell in his game, the way he plays, it wasn't just natural. He just worked, and he's gifted athletically, right? You know, it's all there to me. I can spot it easy just looking at people, watching them, if they have that, from doing it so many times over and over and over. So yes, it's both. That answer to those two-part questions is both.
All right, Chris, always a pleasure, man. Tell the people how they could download the app and how to stay in tune with what you got going on.
Man, just go get it, man. Clash TV, get the app. As simple as that. And make sure you watch the game on Clash Streetball channel on YouTube. That's where all the games are on. You just go watch it. All the games are there. They're archived, catch up, binge watch, do what you have to do. And man, enjoy the views, and then just come back and support. All I'm looking for is the support.
There you have it.
Appreciate you, my guy.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Man,
you, my brother.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Always.
Love. Right.
Gotti, man.
Yeah, you gotta love Gotti, man.
Yeah, when you creating a company, man, you want to make sure that you have technology incorporated. Basketball is something that is spread throughout the world. Like you said, it's the number 2 sport in the world. Having a technological component with grassroots in it, that's something that's sustainable throughout the year.
Yep.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well played. I got a couple ideas. We're going text.
Yeah. That's the only thing with summer league is that it ends in the summer, but not with this. Right? You get that same feel.
It's a culture, and it's something that people you can't replicate that. Like I was talking to Sticks out to Sticks, talking about the NBA and their problems, and he was saying like, honestly, he's like, I go to NBA games all the time. Like I go to Dykeman, I have more fun in Dykeman than I have in the NBA games because it's that energy you can't replace.
Energy behind it. Yeah.
Somebody cursing at the ref, somebody they smoking in the background, they got the music playing.
Hunger.
Like, and you can't. It's not the same. Yeah. So I definitely think that, and honestly, that's how N1 became $100 million company 20 years ago. It's because they captured that. They were like the first commercial brand to actually capture that. And nobody knew what N1 was like, not like they was Nike or something like that. And they made a ton of money because they captured that street element. And whenever you could capture the street element,
package it, get a few stars around it,
mold it. Reebok built the whole campaign around AI. Same issue. Like great point you brought up. Nike needs to tap in. I mean, while their sales are down, and you need to find another market to navigate to. Don't be a colonizer, but be an ally too, please. Yeah. Even in the NBA, everyone plays alike.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
football game. At least you get to see some individualism, some creativity. Like, interesting.
Yeah, I think Kobe said something. Rest in peace of Kobe. He's like, it's predictable ball. So like, you come down and you can figure out who's going to shoot the three. Yeah. Who's going to shoot? Every team is the same thing. Where it was like, there was a team that won because they shot threes, right? And then everybody tried, which was the Warriors, and now everybody tried to catch that, and now everybody just shoots threes. They had a stat. It was obviously a bullshit, and they said that when they obviously different game in the 90s, they averaged 5 3-pointers a game.
I remember that. Yeah, 5
a game. This year's team is averaging 44 attempts a game.
But that was a whole different average.
I'm just saying 44 attempts for a team that shoots.
Other night, mine was 108 threes shot. I'm like,
the other night they missed the most threes in the history of the NBA. They had a game. I think they played the Hornets. They missed the most threes ever in the history of the NBA in a game. I think it was like 77 threes combined.
That's crazy.
Who wants to watch that?
I mean, Steph Curry. You want to watch Steph Curry, right? It's a gift and a curse. But the game became more exciting when the average people relate to Steph Curry because he's the average everyday man. He's not 6'7". He's not 250 pounds.
I agree. Everybody's not Steph though.
But that's why I said the gift and the curse. But kids started to relate to Steph. They watched him. They grew. A lot of kids grew up on Steph Curry. So it's like, yo, this is my pathway forward because I'm not going to be LeBron James, but I could be Steph Curry. I just got to work on my jump shot. So, and it's exciting to watch somebody shoot threes that hit. If you hit a three, it's exciting to watch that.
It's lit. Oh,
it's great to watch, but they're not making them. This is what I'm saying. Like, they're not making them. That's the issue. Yeah. Like, yes, Steph has revolutionized the game with his shooting prowess, like, but he's an anomaly. Actually, maybe he's not, right? I just seen Wemby has hit more threes than him and Harden in his first 2 years.
We're not gonna do that. Yeah, that's amazing.
What?
Steph is Steph, yo.
He's hit more threes already than Harden, who's number 2, and Curry, who's number 1 in his first 2 years. That's crazy to me.
He's still an anomaly, though.
I mean, Wemby is too, though.
No, Wemby's one of the greatest. He's going to be one of the greatest players of all time. He's in my top 5
right now.
Trajectory. His trajectory. He's going to be in my top 5.
You think he leaves San Antonio and goes to the LA at some point?
They won't let him.
I love you from my hometown.
Pop, shout out to Pop, but how long does Pop have left? Once Pop leaves, it's over.
It's over with.
So
he's
going to leave.
What's San Antonio?
Get on the phone. Interfere.
I think they got that type of culture like what Miami has when it was Riley, and then it was like, oh, it's over, and then you get Spoelstra, and now his run.
The thing behind that is Pat Riley's still there.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? I think he'll have a job in the front office.
Jimmy about to leave
if he wants to.
He's old.
I know he's
like
old.
Physically,
and so is Riley.
No, I'm just saying physically he might not be able to do
it much longer. And prayers go out to him. I think he just had a health battle. I think he had a stroke or something like that.
He did.
A couple months ago. Yeah.
Cool.
Popovich.
That's what I'm saying. He's not physically. So once he leaves, and who? I mean, come on.
Time out. You're right, but we trying to make the numbers go up. You can't alienate the city. You're right.
We're not alienating any markets.
Anybody.
We got that river run, right?
That shit works for Charles Martin.
What's the drink called?
Riverwalk.
The Riverwalk. The Riverwalk.
When we say Houston, we met a couple earners from San Antonio.
That's a fact. Shout out
to San Antonio.
Sure did.
The Riverwalk looks like a nice thing.
Salute to San Antonio.
Boy, Victor about to be in LA. Real woo.
Be a menace. LA menace. 7-6.
Highlight room.
7-6 in the highlight room. All right. Well, with that being said, it's been a hell of a year. This is the last Market Mondays of the year.
No.
Of 2024.
Yes, sir.
Yo, man, 51 weeks. It's crazy. It feels
we could do it next week if you want. If you want to do it next week, it's up to you.
Shoot you the satellite.
Sick. Fake sick again.
Fake sick. Yeah, but
I'm gonna miss y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's been a hell of a year. Thankful for y'all. Y'all are amazing. Thank you to everybody in Red Panda, all the earners, everybody who tunes in every week. I will miss y'all next week, but we'll do a group chat and debate sports or some shit.
We still speak when the camera's on y'all.
No, we're not breaking up. I know some rumors.
No, man, it's been a hell of a year. Obviously, the market has been incredible.
Amazing.
We had an election this year. We watched Bitcoin hit 100,000 this year.
Yeah,
I mean, each of our major indices hit their all-time highs. It's been a wild 2024.
Apple been on a tear with all them bad rollouts.
Nvidia was up 174%.
Yes.
Shannon Sharp did 70 million fools with Cat Williams. InvestFest 50. It's been a wild 2024. 2025 is gonna. I already know from the things that's kind of been lined up, it's gonna be just as crazy. So I'm looking forward to it.
What was your favorite moment of this year?
Whew.
It's a lot of them, right?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah, InvestFest was a dope moment from a variety of standpoint, from opening, having Blackout, the first Blackout Live with Shannon Sharp, legendary conversation.
Blackout, that just happened this year.
Yeah.
Blackout legendary.
That was this year.
Blackout legendary, post-election interview, viral moments.
Facts.
Being able to give the Nipsey Hussle thing, that was dope.
I was going there.
Incredible.
I was going there.
Shout out to Sam. Shout out to my brother Sam.
I was going there.
The whole unit, man, being able to give $100,000 in the name of Nip. Rest in peace to Nipsey Hussle. Marathon continues. For sure. 50. Shout out to 50. That was crazy. It's been a lot. It's been a lot this
Come on, man. Come on. Yo, we was in Ghana this year. Think about that. We did Carnegie Hall again this year. You turned 40 this year, man.
Oh yeah, Prince and Minx.
You turned 40 this year.
Prince and Minx,
yo.
Right? We can't.
Minx legendary.
We can't miss that. That marathon moment is probably at the forefront. It's not even what y'all saw on stage, and somebody has the footage. I'm really interested in seeing it. When we had that meeting at the back, we were trying to figure out who was going to be the winner, and the entire family was there. It was Lauren, the kids, his pops, his sister. Everybody was huddling, trying to figure out who it was. It was just like a special moment. That sticks out for sure. 50 Cent at Investors was absolutely ridiculous.
Legendary.
That was ridiculous. Even the process of getting 50 to get to InvestFest was like, yo, we got to take this trip. We got to spend a day in Miami. It was like a whole thing. Shout out to Terrence J, our brother, who's been a noble part of all that. EYLU, the Earners is back running. It's been there's a lot to be grateful for, man. I'll be honest.
Shout out to everybody that's been tapping in the blackout for sure. That's something that
Appreciate y'all.
Started and just kind of cultural phenomenon. Like I said, a lot of people watch Blackout. Like that's their
quietly too.
It's their primary show that they watch. Like I said, Mike Rashid, he was like, I watch Blackout. Like that's my show.
Yeah.
So that's been dope to start that new entity and to get such warm reception. Very thankful for everybody that's been checking out all of the shows, but like I said, especially Blackout, since that's the newest addition to the family. Hey, what about you, Ian?
Addition to Blackout, InvestFest performance was amazing.
For sure.
How much closer we've gotten. Just like seeing Xander grow and developing and playing ball. That's been like fun to watch. Expansion of Red Panda, like that's been fun. Just being solid, full of integrity. Every decision is a good decision, right, Rashad? I've loved for real Shook Shotty and watching you strategize this year. I call you like, what's up? Just chill. Hit me with the Kobe. I got it. Ooh, baby. So off the pod talks. Ooh, baby.
Oh man.
Pay-per-view.
Oh man.
Pay-per-view. So shout out to my guy Ty.
Outtakes.
Everybody in Red Panda. The sports edition has been fun and interesting. So I'm excited for 2025, man. 2025 is going to be amazing.
A lot of good sports takes lately, especially on Blackout. We've been covering sports a lot. Those have done well on social media. So yeah, definitely maybe something we can continue that going into the new year for sure. But in the comments, drop what you would like to see from us in the new year. Some guests, what guests you would like to see.
Warren Buffett.
First and foremost.
That's a fact. What guests you would like to see? What topics you would like for us to cover? Of course, we got the Mastermind in January coming up. Yeah. So everybody that got their tickets to that, y'all in for a treat. But let us know what you would like to see us expand upon.
Yeah. And
2025.
And shout out to Mike. Shout out to Ab. I know the people y'all don't see. My wife Danny, Tahira, Magda, everybody y'all don't see that. Make sure that this engine continues running and going in the right direction. Shout out to y'all. We don't get here without y'all, so we appreciate and love everyone. Yeah, man. Final word.
I'm sad.
It's been real. It's been real, man.
Oh, and what additions do you want us to make next year? I may start off the year doing cash apps. I may bring that back.
You bringing that back?
Yeah, just for like one episode. If the numbers do great, I may do it more than once. But
yeah, somebody brought up the time when we did the cash app and it went to the wrong lady. She gave us the wrong address.
Crazy work. Your mistake.
Oh, it was class. Somebody made some money that night.
Somebody in MAGA.
Everybody that's been watching Market Mondays religiously, cult following, and everybody that's champion Market Mondays for sure. Appreciate.
I love that.
Sure.
Yeah, and everybody that's watching High Level Conversations.
Shout out to High Level Conversations.
Yeah, shout out to our brother Keys, man. Another crazy year for this guy.
He had a dope show yesterday.
Yep.
That I actually got a chance to check out. I was home.
Yeah.
So shout out to Keys and shout out to his guest. Actually, I spoke to her and she's dope. I wasn't really too familiar with her beforehand, but she's super dope. Gen Z model that is a Christian that talks about spirituality from a different standpoint. So that was an interesting conversation because for a few different reasons, as far as the spiritual aspect, the age aspect, it was good to see Keys kind of interact with, the younger generation.
Yeah.
He was listening and he was talking. I feel like he was talking to like give her information it was a good conversation.
I gotta check it out today.
Yeah, shout out to Keys.
Yeah, and his whole team too. I know he started some shows this year. Him and Stevie got the show. Mechie's always behind the scenes making sure everything's happening, man. A lot of good work this year, man. Shout out to my brother.
And to those of you who may not have loved me or loved us and you fell off,
we gonna pray. We gonna pray for you.
We're gonna pray.
To fall off.
Love you dearly.
We gonna pray for you. Even if you don't want these prayers, we still gonna pray for you.
I got prayers for you, my boy.
The fall off legendary. Shout out.
And my friend, you died. Hey,
Shout out. Yes. First book coming out January 13th.
Yeah.
Look out for that. You deserve to be rich. Yeah, man. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to Ghana. More updates on that coming soon. But shout out to Alvin. Shout out to Kwame. Shout out to Shaka Bars. Shout out to everybody.
Julie, what up?
So yeah, man, it's a lot going on, but
yeah,
stay tuned. Blackout this Wednesday. So Blackout's the last. Oh, actually Thursday. We're gonna have a special drop for you guys. Day after Christmas, we got EYO. We're gonna do our conversation with Toby Nwigwe.
Okay.
Some special content.
Mm-hmm.
We did that in Art Basel.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just some special content, just to kind of
great conversation.
Some holiday jingle to your life.
He put out his new track. You saw it?
The Jesus.
Yeah. That's his art.
And shout out to Blackout. This
going
Wednesday.
crazy on Blackout. I ain't holding
Christmas Day when you after you done everything, got some eggnog.
Hey,
tune in. I got the Hennessy in it.
Blackout Christmas edition.
Yeah, man. Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
That's a fact.
Yo, have a good. Hey. Shout out to SZA real quick. Let me just get this off. Shout out to SZA, who put out an incredible body of work. At this point, I'm gonna have a bold take, but I don't think that there's a better songwriter in this generation than her. She is absolutely ridiculous.
She's phenomenal
with the pen. The music she put out is ridiculous. I'm a huge fan. If you haven't listened to the Lana Deluxe, go listen to it. Incredible work. She's up there, man. She is super, super special and talented.
Salute to SZA.
Solana.
Yep.
Fact. Salute to SZA. Salute to everybody that put out music. I think Fat Joe put out some music.
I ain't check it out.
He's in a low situation right now, but just about.
Oh, it's in the hot mad at Fat Joe. Ooh, you Hefe, I rock with you, but I got real quick.
I missed it.
January 18th after one Martin Luther King Day. After that, I'm back rocking. But for right now,
he took that. Shout out to Joey. And condolences, man. I know he lost his brother recently.
Yeah.
Sure. All right, guys, it's been real.
Love.
Tap in next year.
And if the aliens look like that SZA cover art, y'all can go ahead and y'all can beam them down.
Let it happen, man.
Let them in.
Let it happen.
Let them in, Scotty. All right, y'all. It's been real. Love.
Peace.